Nordic and Rick may be of a higher class than you are used to mixing with, huh?
Ah, Bruno, my French friend. The lady will be so lost in my eyes and enthralled in my tales, she will not even notice when I make my move.
Hi everybody, Rattles and Twice, I'm back here for yet another wonderful zombie video. I can't believe the wealth of content that there is to dive into so early on, and a lot of this does come from this conversation I've been having with my Discord server to bounce my ideas off of that I normally have to wait hours and hours with John or Niksari or any of my friends in the community to try and solidify these ideas. So again, I'm encouraging you, go over to my Discord to either just enjoy the general camaraderie of the community or actually talk theories with this guy, me. Anyway, what Voyage of Despair shows us in these trailers is fascinating. 9 really gave us the fundamentals of what was going on in setting up this universe. If you want to see a lot of detail put into that, you can go check out the video I made yesterday and you can really get stuff fleshed out. But an even better explanation was pointed out to me about how 9 should actually represent the 9 realms. And I'll get into that later in this video, as well as we'll dive into why Shaw is so interesting. And I love my friend Luke. He's currently getting his master's in, I believe, material science. He got his bachelor's in chemistry. The dude is a brain, and as soon as I showed him a lot of the chemical stuff, he just found it immediately. He's just so damn good, it's ridiculous. So why did we stop here? All right, enough read. Why do we stop here on this image? Well, this kind of establishes our nationalities of our characters, and it's interesting to try and get those perspectives because it helps us know where our characters are coming from and why they might be doing things they're doing, and then we can also relate to them if they represent our nationalities or heritage or what have you. Bruno's French, the big bulky guy. Diego, we looked up the heritage of that name, and it normally comes from Spanish or Italian descent, so it could go either way on that one. I'm leaning towards Italian early on, but it's cool to start seeing representation from other characters that we haven't seen in the zombie universe. At least Treyarch, for that matter. It's typically been, you know, a Russian, Japanese, German, and American. Scarlet seems to be American, and you have Shaw being British, not German. Now, we'll have to see how it develops, but it does seem like we finally don't have a German leader in one of these groups. What's even more interesting in this trailer is how it starts to flesh out the character development and the personalities. It really serves as an avenue for us to get to know these characters even better, because 9 was once again establishing the crazy world we're diving into. So let's continue to the next part here.
Tick, tick, tick. Timing, as always, is everything. While you and Lady McBlahblah head off to do whatever it is that you're going to do,
Shaw will collect the key,
allowing us access to the Millionaire Suite.
We need to unpack Shaw's tattoos and his comment about timing, all right? Initially, when I heard that too, I was like, it doesn't really make sense. And I saw angry Redditors, as per usual, being like, that doesn't even make sense. Their whole heist is predicated on something. Details are always what Treyarch trailers are about. When he's looking at his watch, it's actually 11:20 p.m. at night. And if we do our research, we'll find out that the Titanic was estimated to have hit the iceberg at 11:40. So 20 minutes pass in our trailer by the time he looks at his watch, and then by the time we are on top of the deck fighting the zombies. So this is interesting because this tells us our characters are time traveling, and this may be their physical bodies. Before, in 9, they inhale, they smoke the goodies, and they end up back in time in other people's bodies, taking over some experience from the Roman Empire. Here, it seems like they're actually there. They have traveled through a temporal rift, time machine of sorts, something that's gotten them there, but is it not very accurate because they can't come earlier in the day? Or do they know something where Shaw seems to be the leader, the Richtofen type of character that knows, hey, this and this is going on. He knew history enough to know we need to be at the right place at the right time to get this artifact. But it's not just him, because Scarlet is the one where she has a character story in the sense that her dad sounded like some archaeologist, and she's sort of this Indiana Jones type character we're experiencing right now. He was researching and following these items. Possibly how all these characters got linked together was through her father or through the connections of this cult, the items, the mysticisms. Somehow we'll find that unfold points in the map itself. But now we get to ask these questions of how are they time traveling? Is it accurate? Is it actually them? Because they're going into the past to steal this and possibly change events. And how does that impact the time travel spectrum? Or is it paradoxical where this was always how it was supposed to happen and this Titanic actually sank because of zombies? You can play with that alternate history. Now for the best part. My buddy Luke, I ended up texting him, and once again, to reiterate his credentials, he is a chemist who's also getting his master's in material science. So he's very, very good about this stuff. Fun little quick story. Before I left for college, he showed us green fire and invisible fire. Those were some cool chemist tricks. So Luke, you're the best. So I took a picture of it, inverted it, and you'll see on screen that on the structure shows chlorine, Cl, and oxygen. And Shaw has tattooed all sorts of things on him. You also see like an Na symbol at some points in the trailer. And it's interesting that he's so into his work that he's tattooing these on him because it's so important that he never forgets the recipe. We've absolutely seen that in characters in the past of all sorts of film, entertainment, novels, you name it. But when he found the first structure, he said the compound is called 2,3 and, oh my goodness, dichlorooxythrine. We'll see how that goes. That was the first thing he pointed out, but he goes, there isn't really any literature about that at this point. That's all that's showing on his arm. And I was like, yeah, well, that probably allows Treyarch to play with whatever they want. And then he goes, actually, I looked it up and I flipped it because I'm assuming the other side has the chlorine groups as well. And he found 2378 tetrachlorodibenzoadenoxin. I totally messed it up. I know he just cringed. I'm sorry, Luke. But when we went into the Wikipedia and we started learning about it, it causes cancer. There's a lot more to it. But more interestingly, it had an application in Vietnam for Agent Orange, which is super interesting because if Shaw is playing with Agent Orange, they can start to help explain his physical characteristics. The whole burns on the side of his face could be coming not from just any alchemy experience, but he might be playing with not only Agent Orange, but napalm and these type of chemicals that might get explained as something entirely different in game, or can be why his fire burns so well, or why he even has access to something in the 1912. It's actually what, April 14th, 1912? He has access to fire bombs. But also notice about his character that his arm is in a brace and so is his leg. Shaw is this older, beat up character. He's got this sense of humor about him. You see in the 9 trailers, like, oh boy, guys, what are we doing here? I'm so excited to see these little things they've put in these trailers, as I've had to meticulously pick up on. Obviously, the normal fan seeing this is rightfully so apprehensive of these characters, but I'm slowly getting more and more hopeful that their personalities won't be boring. There's the explanation to what's on Shaw's arm, because if it's the first one, if it's just those and not replicated chlorines on the other side, then it's just going to be Treyarch can play with it. But if it is actually as Luke described, then we potentially have something really interesting to play with.
Well, we will deal with any unwanted guests.
When you say deal with, I have to ask, how?
I will launch, how you say, charm offensive.
Okay, I'm with you so far, but what did you call the pipe things you're looking for?
Pneumatic tubes, used for the conveyance of small packages throughout the vessel. They will carry our surprise down to the cargo room. It really should be quite exciting.
And after the detonation?
That's where I come in.
Given that the artifact will be securely locked within the safe, dare I ask how you plan to get through 2 inches of solid steel?
I've got just the thing. A mechanism of my own invention.
What does it do?
It opens things.
Now, obviously...
So now we come off with more backstory to Scarlet. We again get that Indiana Jones vibe from her and her father's adventures that was maybe into some kind of archaeology of sorts, but she's also an inventor. So that'll be something that we could see done a little better than Marlton, who was supposed to be an engineer in the past, and that fell flat in his face. Hopefully we get this interesting character development, not this typical, I'm a tomboy and I never got along and I didn't have opportunities. Yeah, we get it. Yes, that's been done in time and time again. Let's see what new twist Treyarch can put on it. It could be that way, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's not downplaying all the massive historical issues with treatment of women and all that type of stuff. That's not what we're into. That's what's happening. But we start to dive down into now the larger backstory of the cult and their involvement, slowly figuring out, put together the pieces to find their cultish artifacts, and their nefarious goals are not clear to us at this point, but clearly they are trying to unearth the zombies, take control and power, transform the world. It's pretty nefarious.
Father made some enemies during his travels?
That's a pretty big understatement.
If I may interject, I think you were about to ask if Miss Rhodes expected us to encounter any opposition.
It's possible. Likely, even.
What of the other valuables? Are we to secure them also?
Just the artifact. We're not thieves.
What are we then?
All that stands between humanity and the forces of evil.
What we need to point out here is the artifacts are not identical. They had the same use here, but actually this artifact, and that may play into why more people got affected, but it's missing the cobra, it's missing the Egyptian symbols. It doesn't even look quite the same. It's very, very similar, but there is a difference. So we may be gathering multiple types of these artifacts. Maybe that's why when they're destroyed, there's still more out there, some more powerful than the other. Here we enter the bulk of even more interesting developments. We have a fire zombie coming outside of one of the others. I don't know if that was supposed to be revealed, that special zombie, but this room almost distracts us with the Nordic symbol from that zombie coming out instead of just turning like the rest of the other people in this trailer. Now we get this Nordic looking statue with the two wolves. We mentioned those in the previous map, and they are the wolves that chase the sun and the moon. But there's even more Nordic mythology, and it was beautifully pointed out to me by Earthly Days and Jigglypuff in the Discord, discussing how much stronger the Nordic connection is. It's a mix of Egyptian and Nordic mythos for our new game. The 9 realms could really connect to places like Asgard. Oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to pronounce any of those other ones. I'm putting the thing on screen. That'll be much easier for you. That connects these possible 9 different dimensions we might be traveling to at some point or have some involvement on. What's even more interesting is when we take Shaw's arm, turn it upside down, and we look at the name he wrote on there. It's actually Latin for Allfather, and Shaw himself is missing an eye, very much like Odin, and Odin is also called Allfather as well. So we have yet another interesting set of connections to this Nordic mythology. Now, that statue itself could be the next form of a perk machine, a gun dispenser. It's whatever we could see next, maybe even gobblegums. It's our, instead of 115 universe and a pack-a-punch machine and group 935, we have some other Nordic mythology or mythos allowing us to play the game we're used to. We want to point out that Shaw's little bombs he throws, which again make more and more sense because of his involvement with alchemy and then the stuff he actually does know and is knowledgeable about making, we need to point out it looks like the Blundergat when you pack-a-punch it and get the acid gat, or the Zet Mezzmune when you saw the experiments at the bottom of Zetsubo no Shima. So this could still be that same methodology same multiverse, but reused, repurposed in different ways to tell different stories. Between both trailers, we seem to have a focus on melee weapons that should be making a triumphant return in this game, or just played up for cinematics. We'll have to find out. To wrap, I want to tell you what the developers told us about the map, and a theory that would get me pretty excited about where this map could lead. So first, the developers explained to us this map is huge. It's tight quarters, but they actually did a one-for-one remake of all the levels of the Titanic. And there's so many damn levels that their artists and designers were like, you gotta be joking us right now. So they did close off certain doors and rooms and areas to give their designers a break, but it should be a very massive map with a lot packed into it. The gameplay, like I said, should be close quarters, so that should hopefully develop a fun, challenging perspective and really target those players that like maps, sort of like Varrock. And then on a side note, not from the developers, because of the Discord, we discussed the possibility of us hitting the iceberg as the map starts and the ship slowly starts filling and filling with water. You can still access some of those areas for limited amounts of time. Maybe you have scuba gear, maybe you have something to withstand the cold from the freezing cold waters, or you may need to do it part of the Easter egg or something like that. Either way, the map is probably going to flood as it continues right along, because we're hitting the iceberg to start the map. And it officially sinks by about 2:20 a.m., so we have about 3 or 4 hours, which in zombie time could be as long as the match needs to be. And that transitions to the crazy far out idea that potentially maybe they find some steampunk like sub on there, some secret experiment, whatever way they might, use that to teleport or go further down after the Titanic sinks and find themselves at Atlantis. So oh, that would get me excited. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this breakdown of Voyage of Despair. I couldn't believe there was this much information packed into this map as well. It's really exciting that we're going to get so much content, so much out of these maps. I am most excited by Blood of the Dead, as you can probably tell because the order the video is released, and least about Voyage of Despair, because Voyage of Despair almost seems like the predecessor to 9, where 9 they figure out everything and then they get out, come back from the cave, and then teleport to the Titanic to try and stop these things from happening for whatever reason. That voice they might be hearing in the beginning that I commented about last video could be Nordic gods, and they could be listening to one of the Nordic gods, trying to get them to do whatever is necessary to prevent maybe the bad Nordic gods who control the cult from accomplishing nefarious goals. I really like the idea of 9 different dimensions and going and playing with all this Asgardian myth and all that type of stuff. I mean, we've got introduced to that a bit through the comic books for Thor and even the cinematic universe Thor. So it's really, really exciting to see the potential that could come. I'm most excited for Blood of the Dead, but most hopeful for 9 and Voyage of Despair. Tell me which map you're most excited for, and if you would like to add more to the discussion, tell me in the comments. If you don't want to go on and use Discord, or join us on our Discord server, because it's a really good time. I'm RedAlston27. Make sure you subscribe for all your Call of Duty Zombies news, information, everything related to it. World War II DLC 3 is right around the corner, and of course, endless Black Ops 4 content's coming in the next few years. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.